Hey everybody, welcome to another Fanny Friday. This is Kevin and I'm taking over today again. So today we're going to be making a Slimline card using Anthony Have a Blast. So you're going to have to get your little Anthony guys stamped, cut them out with your outline die, and we're just going to set them aside for now as we're going to work on our background. So for our background today, we're going to be using the Crater die. So the Stamp Anything Builder Crater die. So I've already got that cut out using black cardstock and yellow cardstock, and I've sprayed it with the iridescent spray and with the orange color Spritz spray as well. And I've already glued these pieces together so they're ready to go. I've also stamped out our sentiment in our, I'm gonna say celestial, yes, in our celestial blue ink, and I just did a little bit of light ink blending with some graphite just around the edges, very lightly. So we've got our sentiment ready to go as well. I'm also using one of our Slimline card bases, and what I've done is gone ahead and cut a piece of yellow cardstock to 8 by 3.5 to serve as our base, and then our background is actually going to go on this white Hammermill 100-pound color cover copy stock, and I've cut this to 7 3/4 by 3 1/4 so that it'll sit nicely inside. So I'm going to set those aside, and then we're also going to be using today is our Space Planet Builder, and I'm going to be showing you how this works as well. And I'm going to be using all of them with our Stamp Anything hybrid inks. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to clear this out of the way. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to just secure our base to our media mat. I'm using the Tim Holtz Tonic Studios media mat just to make my ink blending life a little bit easier. So I'm just going to use a little bit of washi tape just to kind of hold this down. It just helps for me to have my stuff not move around, and I'm just going to place it right here. There we go. So with the builder stencils, some of them are very conveniently labeled with number 1, number 2, 3, and 4. So you know what order you want to go in. So for today, we're going to go right in order, and we're going to start with that number 1. And we're going to line it up, and see this outside, or I'm going to say inside edge. I'm going to use this inside edge on the outside of my card as a guide. So if I put this in the top corner, I'm going to slide it over just until this sits right here on that outside edge, and I'll just bring it down. And then I know I can tape it into place. And actually I'm going to use some of our Stamp Anything washi tape just to hold this stencil in place. So again, just gonna make sure this stays nice and lined up. And we'll put that down over the corner. So having your stencil secure is a really important step if you want nice clean lines. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, so we may go a little outside the lines, but hey, we're gonna try. So for the background, I'm going to start with our Aspen Gold. So this is our Aspen Gold hybrid ink, and just off to the side, I don't know if you can see it, but right over here in this corner, I've got our trusty sticky pad where I can put my hybrid ink cube and it won't slide around. Super convenient to have. I'm going to use our Stamp Anything Palm Blender brush, and we're just going to ink that up. And then we're going to go ahead and just fill in that circle. just lifted it up a little bit. So yeah, make sure you're holding it down. Do as I say, not as I do. So I'm just going over the edges of this top line of these kind of mountainous space terrain, I'm gonna call it. So we're going to then switch colors. And we're gonna go in with our lighter gray, which is our graphite. And we're gonna ink that up. So just to make sure I don't kind of ink into my circle, I'm just gonna use the washi tape. Just to kind of keep that area clean. Again, I'm gonna do the same here. And then we're just gonna hold this down, and then we're gonna blend down. So once we've got our graphite in there, we can move on. So we're going to now lift this layer, and we'll go on to layer number 2. So all I'm going to do is kind of peel open where I have that washi tape so that I can just reuse it. Lift that up. And there we go. We have our first layer, number 1. Now all we're going to do is simply move to our layer number 2. Now because this is a bigger stencil, we're only using the top half just so we can kind of get that cratery moon. Again, just want to make sure I have it lined up nicely. Now I'm going to move on to my next color, and for my next color I'm choosing to use our Stamp Anything Hybrid Ink in Tangerine. So maybe it's getting a eerie orangey yellow glow for maybe a nearby sun. I don't really know how the universe works. And who knows what planet this is. This is Planet Imagination. So here we go. We're just going to make sure we, again, make sure we've held that stencil down nicely. And we're just going to use that Tangerine to fill that in nicely. And from our Tangerine, now we're going to move to these bottom hills here, and we're going to go a little bit darker still. And we're going to go with Moon Rock, a very aptly named color that we'll be using right now. So I have brushes for color families for the Palm Blender brushes. So in between using them, you might want to just take a piece of paper and just kind of make sure you rub some of that excess ink off. All right, so now time to add in that Moon Rock. And again, I'm gonna make sure I'm kind of holding this down nicely. All right. I think that we've got that a good color. And let's check out our next layer. Ooh, I think that looks pretty awesome. Stenciling I find so fun and so quick and easy to do a background with, especially when you've got these little builder stencils where you can just layer up the scene. So next, of course, is number 3. So number 3 has a bottom section. We won't be using it. It doesn't fit onto our card that we're designing today. But we're going to line this up. And we will be moving on. Now, I thought for something a little bit fun, we would throw in some purple. So we're going to be using the Stamp Anything Hybrid Ink in Amethyst to ink up this next section, just to throw in that nice contrasting color. So again, you can't really see here. Actually, let's move this over for a moment so you can see. Sorry about the noise, but here's that sticky pad. So you can see here, I can really ink up that blending brush, and this is not going anywhere. So here we go. We're going to, again, make sure I'm just holding it as well. It's taped down, but I want to make sure it's very secure. And I'm just making sure that amethyst is really nicely blended in there. So now after I get my amethyst done, we're going to go into our last stencil and our last color. And I'm going to go ahead and go in with our Obsidian ink, which is our black. So let's go ahead and get this stencil lifted. I also like to do the stencil first because I feel like I want to give the ink a little bit of time to kind of settle and dry before we kind of touch it. So there we go. That looks beautiful. And then here is our last part of our stencil. And we're just going to place that right there. We'll tape that down. All right, let's add our deepest, darkest color, which is our Obsidian ink. We're going to place it right in here, and again, I'm holding it nice and firm. And I want to make sure I used some of the Obsidian just to really get in that depth and that black, just because we did the crater die, and I used that black cardstock. So yeah, I'm just really making sure that I've got that ink super saturated in there. May also be time for me to use my re-inkers for the hybrid inks, which we do have. So let us take a look at our background. There we go. That looks pretty neat, if you ask me. But I'm going to go in with just a little bit of the stamp Anniething apple green, just for an outside glow around the edges of my card. So I'm going to get rid of the tape. I'm just going to get rid of any excess ink that's hanging around the edges. And I just want a faint little apple green glow around, just to give it that eerie, spacey look. And I'm just going to go lightly in from the edges. Nothing too crazy. So we've got a little subtle green glow there. And I think it could use just a little hint, just a hint of the lavender as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add a wee bit of lavender to this card. I'm just going to get some of these excess ink off my brush. Actually, do you know what? I think let's just try using the excess amethyst that was still left on here just for a little bit. I think that actually turned out quite perfect. Look, very happy. Accident, but not accident. But yes, so we didn't have to use any extra ink. We just used the leftover ink that was still already on our blender brush. All right, so let's go ahead and set that aside as we move on to coloring Anthony Have a Blast. So we're going to move this aside. Just so we get rid of that glare. Here we go. And let us grab Anthony to color. All right, so for Anthony's skin, we're going to start with E59. And for his skin tone today, we're going to be using E59, E57, E15, E33, E31, R32, and R22. So again, we're going to start with our E59, which is our walnut. And I like to kind of color away from myself. And we're going to just go right under his bangs. And that's where we're going to start with the deepest color. Now, some of you may choose to color along with me and do this skin tone, or you may choose to do another skin tone. But basically, all my skin tones, I start out the same by going around that hairline. And after I've done the E59, we're going to go into the E57, which is our light walnut. Sorry, our light walnut. Now we're going to color over what we just did and extend out. So we're just going slightly further out from the first color we just did. And we're going to put this color right under his nose as well. And we're going to put them right into Anthony's eyelids. Now from the E57, we're going to be going into E15, which is our dark suntan. As you can see, I have a chow. I have not gotten it in sketch yet. Technically, I may be stealing Steven's markers. He's on the design team if you haven't met him. So again, we're kind of going over what we did and then starting to extend out. Now I'm going to bring it right down by his eye now. And we're going to go right under his chin. Now if you have colored our chibis before, you'll know there's usually more chin space, but because he's wearing a helmet, we have a little bit less face to color. As well, he's kind of got a lower hairline. So from the E15, we're going to move to E33, which is our sand. And again, I'm just going to go over everything I already colored. I'm just going to start to bring that down. I don't know if you just could hear in the background, but my little doggy just had a little sneeze. So everybody colors their skin differently. This is just my method. I tend to use the clockwise and counterclockwise. If I'm going right to left, I go counterclockwise. And if I'm going left to right, apologies, I go clockwise, just to help get me a nice even blend. So now I'm going to very carefully go around that eye. And I just realized that I forgot my 0, so I might go and grab that, because sometimes I go a little too close to that eye, and then I use the 0 to kind of push the color out. So far, so good. There we go. And then we'll blend that under the nose there. And again, we're going to kind of spin up counterclockwise. And then spin up clockwise. Go around the eye here a bit. And from that E33, we're going to go into E31, right there in the middle, and this color is brick beige. And kind of just using this as my smoothing color, just to get my skin tone to blend nicely. I'm gonna go over the skin tone twice, just to make sure I get it saturated and really colored the way I want. And on the second pass, I won't be using the E3 one. I won't be using the brick beige. So just went and grabbed my 0, my color spender, just make sure this is the right one. It's nice and full because I went into the eye a little bit here, and all I'm going to do is kind of push it away. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna go back in with that E59 again. Apologize for being off screen here, and we'll zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna turn them around. And again, we're gonna go just under that hairline, extend down. So hopefully this zoomed in view helps you a little bit more. And then just putting it onto the outside corners of that eyelid with that E59. And again, from E59, we're going to go to E57, which is our light walnut. And I'm going to go over those lines again, and again, just extend outward. And I'm actually taking off both caps right now, just to make sure that my Copic marker has even distribution of the ink and that I don't get any blobs. So again, kind of just going over what I just colored and going beyond that line. And into that eyebrow again, and the nose, that light walnut. Then again, back into our E15, and again, I'm just gonna make sure I take both caps off. Again, I'm trying to be a little bit light-handed here as well. One, to remain control of my line size, and one, just to make sure I'm not over depositing too much of the ink. Going to extend that a little bit more. Don't worry, it's all going to blend in the end. And then from the E15, we're going to E13, that sand again. Right there. And here, we're going to turn him back around so you can see him facing the right direction again. And I'm coming down from that darker part and then rotating in towards the middle. And then here the same way, but clockwise. I'm just kind of going carefully around the eyes. Go. All right, now that we're done with the E33, I'm just gonna go over his eye line again with that 0 where I pushed it out a little far. We're gonna zoom out just a little bit there for us. Right. Now I'm going to go in with R32. We're just going to kind of give him a little bit of color right in his cheeks, a little bit there, just a tiny bit. Also going to use this right on the outside edges of his tongue, and then we're going to use R20 in the middle. Kind of blend it a little bit, and we'll use that up in the cheek as well. So once we have his skin tone done, we're gonna move on to his hair. In his hair, we're using W9, W7, W5, and W3, which are our warm grays. So that's 9, 5, 7, and 3. So I'm gonna start with the 9, which is our warm gray number 9 right there. And I'm just going to flick away from myself and we're just going to fill that in all the way across the top. And I've just brought some of my lines just a little bit lower. Oh, flying off the page here. Then we're going to go in with our W7, but our W7 I'm going to use at the tips of the bottom of his hair. So we did the darkest at the top, and then we're doing the second darkest color that we have just at the bottom. And we're just making that just a small space. We're not bringing it up, not too high. And again, I'm just kind of small flicks away from myself. See if we can zoom that in for you again here. And from our W7, we're going to go into our W5, and we can go right up from where we just colored. Doesn't have to be long. I'm not making it perfect. I'm just going along. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it right from the other side. Not quite from the base though. So we're going to start about middle. And again, just want to do little flicks. Just so he ends up with a little bit of highlight flashing right across his bang. And the last is the W3. And we're gonna do the same thing, so I'm gonna go up and then down. And if I have a little bit of white left over, that is totally okay. And I'm just gonna go down again. And just for some final definition, I'm gonna go back in with that W9 again, just at the top of his helmet here. And I'm just kind of following the lines that have already been drawn in for us. And the same at the bottom, I'll go back in with the W7 just over the lines that were again already kind of drawn in for us. And zoom that out, apologies. And there we have our hair done. So for his helmet, I'm going to be using T4, T2, and T0. And that is going to be for the outside of his helmet. So starting with that T4, the toner gray, and I'm using it just on these outside edges right here. And then from the T4, we'll go to T2. And I'm going to just kind of start at that midway point and come up and around. And we're going almost right up to the top of the helmet here. And then our last color is our T0, which we're going to use right in the middle. And then we're going to extend it out and bring it around and down. And there we have that part of his helmet colored. Super easy. Yes, I did. So let's skip down. We're going to go head to toe. So we're going to go down to his boots, and we're going to use our T9 and our T6. So we're going to color in the bottom of his boot with that T9. Go up the side, a little bit into the toe. And we're going to go up this side of the boot and around. And then we'll go in with our T6 and blend that out a little bit. We'll zoom back in. And from the T6, we're going to go right down to our T0. And we're just going to bring that in. All right, so we've got his helmet colored, his boots colored. Ooh, we're going to go right out here. Gonna zoom out, and now we're gonna do the outside of his suit part. So that is going to be with our T8. We're gonna go ahead and color in some of his little patches on his suit. So we're gonna go ahead and do T8 just in these little patches. Right up here, just in his jacket. And now we're going to go up on the inside line, all the way up here. And then I'm going to go on the outside line, so same where I had it on his boot. And then we'll go in with the T6. We're going to go right over that line, just on its inside. Same, we're just making it a little bit wider. And then we're going to go in with our T4, oops, just on the outside. I made a little boo-boo in his pants. We're gonna kind of erase that gray where it went outside the line. And I forgot. We're also gonna do T8 a little bit in his gloves on the outside and on the inside over here. And that one will go from T8 to T2. And now we're going to go ahead and color in his suit. And for the middle part of his suit, we're going to be using our 5.9, 3.9, and 2.9, starting with our 5.9, which is our cardinal red. So you can see kind of how he's looking so far. Super duper cute. So again, I'm going to take off both my cap lids, especially because it's a darker color, so I don't want it to bleed. There we go. So I've been keeping the darker side of his suit for the most part on the left. So we're going to do the same here when we add our reds. And from our R5.9, we'll go into our R3.9. And again, I'm going to take off both caps just to be on the safe side. gonna going over the line I colored, and I'm extending. And then from the R39, we're going to go to R29. And we'll just continue on his space jacket with our R29. And we can go back in with our R39 just to blend that a little bit if we want. And I'm actually just going to go in with T6 just under his neck. All right, and now we're going to add that same red up and around his helmet. And we're going to start with that R59, and we're going to go under the chin first. And we're going to bring that dark color right up the sides. Just up to where his hair begins to get a little bit thicker. And then from the 5-9, we'll do the same thing. We're going to go right to the 3-9 as our next color. And we're going to bring it right around to the top of his helmet. And then we'll finish it with our 2-9. And the same thing, we'll kind of bring that R29 back down. Into the sides. And we'll go over his little spacesuit again. Just deepening the R29 on those inside edges. And I think I'm just going to add in just a little bit more of that R59 just on the inside edge, just a little bit, just in a couple places. Just to increase that shadow a little bit more. And again, I'm gonna bring it actually up this side here, just so I have a little bit of that depth in there. And on that left-hand side where we've got a little bit more shadow. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go with the T9 just around that outside edge a little bit here. Just actually on where the white is on the cutout. And we're going to just kind of go right on this edge, giving a little bit of kind of shadow here. Sorry, I did that off camera. I apologize. We're just kind of going right along that outer edge on that side. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our T0 and I'm just going to fill in the outside of his suit just a little bit, just where that white is. So I'm kind of eliminating some of that white just slightly with this T0. And I'll just go around the top here, just so it's not quite as stark in the card. All right, I think it is time to put this card together. So we're gonna grab that first card base that we already have on our Slimline card. We're gonna back this out just a little bit here for us. So there we go. And now we're going to attach our base. So I'm going to just use our Stay Anything glue. We're gonna just do this super quick. And I grab my brayer because I like my brayer. When I glue things down, it just helps get good adhesion and the glue spreads out really nicely. There we go. So I think we've got a nice little outer edge. I think it looks lined up nicely. So again, just gonna take that brayer. Make sure your brayer is cleaned off before you do it. So I'm just gonna roll it up across and then roll it up and down just to make sure I'm spreading out that glue nice and even. And then you don't get any glue clumps or anything underneath or little bubbles. So there we go. I think that's looking cute. So then we're gonna grab our crater die that we've already cut out, and then we're gonna decide where we're putting that. So it kind of covers up some of our project. So I think what I'm going to do is let's cut part of that. We're just gonna go ahead and cut that die shorter for what our purposes are. And I'm gonna pick, so I just did a quick cut off screen here and we've just chopped off part of our crater because we only need part of it to add to this scene. And I think we'll put it right over here. And I think because it has dimension, I don't need to put any pop dots on it or anything like that. So we're just gonna add our glue. And we'll go ahead and adhere that to our card. Now the glue does dry clear, so you don't have to worry about if any leaks out, but I like to be a little picky. So we're gonna roll that on just to make sure we've got it adhered nicely. All right, that's looking pretty cute so far. Now I'm going to grab some pop dots next because we're gonna prop Anthony up on this card. So I'm not going to put any pop dots at the very top of his head because he is going to actually be offset from the card a little bit at the top. And one of these little pop dots I'm just going to cut in half so I can put them down on his legs. All right, now that we've got all those pop dots on the back, we're going to place him on our card. I'm going to place him right here. There he is, kind of floating over our scene. I put pop dots now on the back of our sentiment. And we'll just place that right here. It's been light years since we've hung out. And there we have our completed Spacey Slimline card. Thanks a lot, everybody.